Wait for it. Wait for it. And we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home. We're going to start with Madam Chloe Garner.
Hello, I am Chloe Garner.
Uh-oh.
I am the author of various science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy, paranormal, slightly horrific, and maybe a few Western series. I write big, chaotic universes full of characters off doing their own thing very unpredictably.
Okay. That sounds like a lot of fun. Next, we have returning guest, Mr. Forrest Jones.
Hey, so, I write mostly YA fantasy. So, anybody pretty much 17 and up. I write for. I've always enjoyed it, and it's pretty low key. Just I've got an adventure series out, and then I've just finished 4 others that are waiting to be published.
Fun times. All right, next we have Miss Hunter Kay Wallace.
Hi, guys. I'm the author of the Migratory Farmer series. Oh, am I muted?
No, you're not
we hear
muted.
you.
Leave
Okay.
it to the
Sorry,
nomad.
Melissa. I said a little.
No, it's yeah.
I'm the author of the Migratory Farmer series. And though I don't write YA very often, I do enjoy it.
Why did it sound like you were making some sort of admission that you were like not wanting everyone else to know? We scared her. Okay.
The world may never
Oh,
know.
it was not as where I know I could be now, where I am now. And I look back and I think, maybe I'll rewrite that one day. Or maybe I'm going to leave that in the drawer.
Okay. Next, we have the one, the only Chief Shenanigator, Miss Jana S Brown, who sometimes cosplays as Jena Rey.
Woo! I love that I have a title now. I am Jana S Brown under the pen name Jena Rey. I write fantasy, urban fantasy, science fiction, all sorts of speculative things based on what the squirrels in my head want to talk about. I have not written any YA novels, but I've written a whole lot of YA short fiction. And I find it interesting. I find the lines between YA and other things fascinating. So I'm here to I'm here to learn because I also have an upcoming YA reader, and YA has changed a lot over the years, and so I'm relying on other people to help me know what else to put in front of her.
Always a good thing to know what you put in front of your kids when it comes to
It's
reading.
true. Very much so.
Next, we have the Paladin War Hamster herself, Miss Melissa McShane.
That is so your fault, JR. I'm Melissa McShane. I write many different fantasies, and I wish I had a single universe because I think that would be easier to market, but I have many different series of different fantasy types: contemporary fantasy, urban fantasy, historical fantasy. And I am here as a longtime reader and literary critic of YA fiction and fantasy.
So is there any truth to the rumor, Hunter, before we get started with our tailored religion questions, that you paid your narrator for the aluminum ziggurat to say aluminium, all proper in British?
If not, you should have.
Because then you could be posh and still have a cool nomad book.
That's true.
But then if I don't know, get into voice acting or something and do it myself, I'd have to speak with a British accent, and I can't Mary Poppins. I mean, maybe I could then.
Crumpets, it'll fix everything. You'll get it. Wait, are crumpets an actual
Tea and
thing, or am I
crumpets.
making this up?
Crumpets are an actual thing. They're
Yeah.
delicious.
Okay, what exactly is a crumpet? See, we always end up at the food cast, but whatever.
I just know that I want to be eating the kind of biscuits they're talking about in England.
So they're
Yeah.
they're kind of similar to English muffins, but they're a little bit airier. They don't end up with such a smooth surface. They have nice little bubble holes in them. That's why then you fill them with clotted cream and jam, and they're delicious, and they're kind of squishy and chewy, and they're very, very lovely tea food. But crumpets are an actual thing.
I would describe them as biscuits under the wide American umbrella of biscuit, which is anything that isn't a cookie or a cake.
Mhm.
That's not a bad way to describe them either.
Yeah, definitely not the British way of describing a biscuit. I like ours better, honestly.
But it's a griddle bread. It's griddle fried, so it's almost like a poofier pancake.
That's a description I never thought I'd hear before, but okay. I just know that I got in a Twitter war. I guess it was technically Instagram with Gemma Clatworthy, who is a friend of the show who writes out of the UK, and I implied she put her scones in the wrong order with the jelly and the butter and the. Apparently, it's a thing over there. I don't know.
Okay.
All right, so
with insults you don't understand.
Next, they're going to tell me I don't make tea right or something. I don't know.
Uh,
All right, so because we were doing YA, I tailored our religion questions accordingly. So, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the Breakfast Club, or Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Chloe.
I am a Ferris Bueller all day, every day. I love the character with absolutely no sense of what's going to happen tomorrow, and fearless and charismatic just to the nth degree. I don't think anybody has ever written a Ferris Bueller better than Ferris Bueller.
yeah.
Okay, Forrest.
Well, I gotta be honest, I haven't seen the other two, so I've seen Ferris Bueller's though, and I do like the show. I like the actor, and it's also kind of cool that Deadpool makes a reference at the very end to Ferris Bueller's Day Off as well. Yeah, so I unfortunately I've heard of the Breakfast Club, and I think I've seen scenes from it, but otherwise I haven't seen it, so I can't really speak to the other two.
That is obviously something you're going to have to rectify as soon as we hit end recording.
Yeah.
Hunter, what about yourself? Hunter.
I'm in the same boat. The only one I've seen is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I didn't understand what the hype was, but I didn't see it till I was an adult, and that's my problem. My husband also introduced me to Christmas Story, and I just don't understand.
Oh.
Oh, you are young.
Seriously, I
Oh.
didn't have a childhood.
I don't know what to say to that. Is she even allowed back on the show? I don't know.
I don't know. It's
Hmm.
him and Chloe the neighbors.
We need someone to frown at and say, "Oh, you're so young." So yes.
Okay. All right, Jana.
You're so beautiful, Hunter. We're sorry for you.
Jana, you're going to
Oh,
save us from those poor answers, yes?
No, I'm going with Ferris Bueller, but not because I haven't seen the others. I have seen them, but again, I just love. I love the chaotic nature of it. I love the fact that they use the "Oh Yeah" song for various advertisements forever after that, and so people who
Yeah.
are lots younger than me would go, "Well, that's like the Twix commercial song." It's like, no, it's a Ferris Bueller song. What do you mean it's the Twix commercial song? It made me ever so sad, but then it was combined with chocolate, and that made me feel a little bit better. But I do love the devil may care, what they do to that poor car. Oh, that poor beautiful car, and poor Cameron. So and I love that Cameron is just trying so hard to make them behave until he just decides I give up, because I've been that person who's like, no, we have to stop and we have to. What are we doing? And then you just get to the point you're like, nope, I'm done. So I love it.
All right, Melissa.
Oh, definitely Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it was a joy to me to show it to my children and have them love it as much as I did. That was fantastic. They some of the other movies of my childhood they don't get, but that one they just really loved, and so sharing that with them was wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, I've seen all the movies. I liked all the movies. So what clinched it for me was the car in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is a 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider. And it was just a glorious car. And what they did to it at the end was just. We almost need a moment of silence for that car.
It's heartbreaking.
All right. So now that you've said your prayers, we can go on to the next one. That was just and the glass house, the look, nothing screams 80s vibe when it comes to housing than that glass walled room in that house.
I saw a meme somewhere that said that you can tell where you are in your life cycle by which character you identify with most.
Oh,
When you're
wow.
a young
Yeah.
person, you identify with Ferris. When you're sort of in your coming of age into adulthood and young adulthood, you identify with Cameron, and by the end, you just identify with the principal.
Say it louder for those in the back.
I'm just saying, the older I get,
And
the
I
more
am
Rhett
cornering
Foreman.
into my principal years.
Oh, ain't that the
The,
truth?
the older you get, the more Rhett Foreman and what's the character in Gran Torino, the more sense they make to me.
Mhm.
So because we were polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we've got Clueless, Never Been Kissed, or American Pie. Got a little bit of something for everyone, so you could pick your poison. And we're going to start with you, Chloe.
It's Clueless. It's absolutely Clueless. The Princess Bride is, in my mind, the most quotable movie that has ever been written. But Clueless would hold the title if Princess Bride had not run away with it. We went through my high school years yelling as if at each other, and it's so formative. I love it.
Okay, what about you, Forrest?
I honestly, I actually have seen all of those. Growing up in a house full of women, it was chick flicks the whole time. Clueless, no, it's just weird. It's like it's fine and dandy and all that, but I'm definitely I liked Never Been Kissed. That movie was I like Drew Barrymore, and most of her movies are pretty funny. I know it's super chick flicky, but I liked it.
All right, after this podcast, we're going to need you to hand in your man card. And next, we're going to ask Hunter Kay Wallace.
Wow.
Okay, I haven't seen any of these, so I am being a rebel and doing something else. I'm going to say I like, from approximately the same era, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
That was on the list I looked at.
Also seen that one.
Yeah.
That one's only good because of Heath Ledger. I like that one because of Heath Ledger.
We have to go back to the 90s, guys.
No, that's 10 Things you're thinking of, not How to Lose a Guy.
Oh,
10
really?
Things is
10
definitely
Things is
top 10 material.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying that when you're dating in that era, you see a lot of those movies. All right, so what about you, Jana?
Okay, of the three, Never Been Kissed is my favorite, even though I have to not think about it very hard, because there are some real problematic things in the whole thing with the teacher-student relationship. And as I have a kid, again, hanging into those ages, it's like, oh, that never should have been a thing. But if I don't think very hard about it, I do enjoy Never Been Kissed.
Okay. What about you, Melissa?
Well, on our recent trip to the United States, we were crammed into a United flight with in-screen, in-seat monitors that the sound didn't work. And so, we couldn't figure out how to select things. So it was stuck on Clueless. And so I'm watching it without the sound and thinking, I know every line from this movie. I can quote this movie by heart. And so it's definitely Clueless. I love it's so beautiful, and it's my favorite Emma adaptation from Jane Austen too. It's just really good. So yeah, it's Clueless.
And since we mentioned the 10 Things I Hate About You as an option previously, that's an actual adaptation of The Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Good
where we
adaptation.
actually liked classic literature back in the day, and we made moods to that. And now it's just like we hate everything that's old. Okay. For me, like I picked two choices that I thought the ladies would be pleased with from the list of YA from the era. But I'm a dude and I have dude humor, and I lived a lot of my life in a barrack, so I'm going to go with American Pie. I would not recommend listening to that or watching that if you've got young impressionable minds around. But it's funny. Just maybe don't tell your preacher, or your bishop, or whoever about it after you watch it.
True.
I'm just going to give you fair warning, people. All right. Chloe, what is your favorite YA trope?
I like the found family thing, and the crew that runs around and does the things, and they don't really question why they're together most of the time. They just are, and they roll with it. And you have your cast of personalities that sometimes you can get into some really typecast situations with it, but it just works the story really well. It makes for fun stories.
All right, Forrest.
Well, I got to be honest. First of all, I'm not a very smart person. Like, I accidentally took English 102 3 times in college. So tropes for me were like, I didn't even know what it meant until my wife got me this book that defined it for me, and I was like, that's really cool. I guess I'm not really like I don't know, ones that I like. I saw your little clip there. I guess if you could just, I don't know, maybe give me an example of some tropes that I'm just trying to remember. So
what aspects of it, we could tell you whether it's a trope or not. There you go. What do you hate or love? Excuse me. What do you like about? What did I say? Favorite or least favorite? Let me double check my own dang notes. See what you did for us.
We started with favorite.
Favorite.
Yes, your favorite.
Favorite.
Your favorite?
Yes.
I mean, I guess for me, I enjoy pretty much everything about fantasy, except for like the best friend turn lover stuff. I don't like that. The worst enemy turn lover stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff's just like 50 Shades for me. It's like, what? Like,
See, the problem with the enemies to lovers is if you do your job right and sell the enemy, it's really hard for anybody that holds a grudge for you to convince me that you turned that on its head. And my family's like half Scottish, half German. We hold a grudge for generations. It's like Hatfields and McCoys up in my house. So yeah, I'm with you. That one doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I'm like, how can that be? It just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's ironic though, because I one of my stories, I actually have that. It's not quite as bad and not nearly as cheesy. So it's just ironic, but I'm trying not to make it appear that way. I'm trying to make it more just like a natural, like, oh, we got to know them and find out they weren't nearly as bad as we thought. But maybe that's the exact trope that I just fell into. If so, then whoops.
Okay. All right. What about you, Hunter? Hunter?
Okay, I'm going with First Kiss.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. We'll go with that. Jana?
Yes. I'm holding to it.
Hunter's internet is playing silly biscuits with us.
Yes, it is.
Jana,
Oh,
what
so
is your favorite?
it's me, not all of you guys, because you guys are cutting out constantly on me.
It's you.
You're cutting out on us, love.
Should I put it in answering?
So, Jana, what is your favorite YA trope?
My very favorite. Okay, I kind of love the training montage that we see all the time with YA heroes and heroines as they get going. There's always that moment where it's like, yes, now we have to have the Mulan, I'll make a man out of you thing. And I do love myself a good training montage, and it's particularly fun with YA because they often come in so very, very clueless, and then they're allowed to get awesome, and that's fun.
Okay. Do you need the musical for the training montage? Is that a requirement for you?
I am the tiger.
Need is a strong word, but the musical montage never hurts. I mean, I guess there's probably some out there somewhere where it does, but most of the time, even the Karate Kid's got some good background training music. So the music makes the thing. It really does.
So I'm going to apologize for the background noise. I told everybody on previous podcasts that you would have listened to back in July, pre this one, that we got a new puppy, and my mother was being nice and getting even with me at the same time, so she bought him some puppy toys, and every one of them squeak when he bites into them. So,
I can hear them. I love it.
All right, so Melissa, favorite YA trope?
Well, I don't actually have a favorite YA trope in the sense of it being something that I look for in a book, like that I actually enjoy in many books, but I'm gonna get you with enemies to lovers, and I only like this in YA, and the reason is that one of my very favorite YA novels, Crown Duel, has an enemies to lovers relationship, and it is fantastic. and it does not depend on the man, because usually in these it's the woman who's the main character and the man is the enemy. It does not depend on the man being a jerk. It depends entirely on her perception of him and what she misunderstands. And I like that because it's centered on the main character and how their character develops. So that's why I like it.
I like the good versus evil trope. I like it generally speaking. I think modernity is too fond of morally gray, and I think there's value in this is good and this is evil, and nary the two shall meet, except for with swords, obviously, at dawn. So I really enjoy the good versus evil just about in anything I read. I like clear good guys and clear bad guys. I mean, you can have morally gray, but it should be not the main focus. But I also, if done well, I enjoy the chosen one trope, but I also think you can do it very cringy. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's if you get it right, it pops, but if not, because a lot of times it just comes off because reasons. That's why they're so good, because reasons. So you got to sell me those reasons.
Okay. So I think I did it backwards. Again, I'm not the brightest person. I did the one that I hate the most. The one that I like the most, I'd have to agree with you on that. That I like the good versus evil. I think that today's the reason why I think everything is failing in movies is because people are afraid to make good villains. They're like, oh, we don't want to be too offensive. I'm like, no, he's a villain. He's supposed to be offensive. So I would have to agree with you. I think if we have a clear-cut villain and a clear-cut good guy, I think it makes for a good story because you need that. So I just wanted to apologize. I got that backwards. I said my hated one first, and then I was like, whoops.
All good. All right, and finally, our last religion question until we move on and we start talking about all the cool things. So, we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle-dragging troglodytes. So I'm going to ask you, coffee or tea, and how do you take it this August as the summer is winding down for some of you? Chloe, what are you drinking this August?
Propel, just about as close to out of the freezer as you can get it, because it is hot. And every time I come in from outside, it's like, yeah, I'm going to go drain one of those because it's the only thing keeping me going right now.
Okay. Next, we have Forrest.
Yeah, I think you know my answer just because last time you found out. However,
it could change. It's summer now.
No, I know, and I've just never really been a tea drinker. Like, I'm more Norse, not British, but
so mead. Mead's a good summer drink.
Honestly, I like juice, soda. Water's always a good go-to. I got 4 kids, so I can't really enjoy anything nice just because I have kids. Yeah. But also I do enjoy a drink, like a kind of a good for you one with a little bit of caffeine and not a lot of sugar. They've got those out there, and I probably would say I prefer those over. So.
Okay, Jana, are we still going to go boring and hail to the Dr. of Pepper, or are you going to mix it up?
Dr. Pepper is never boring. Just get that out there. So I do still drink my Dr. Pepper, but I also, in the summertime especially, I really like cranberry juice or cran raspberry juice. That tartness is really nice. It's good with helping you to stay hydrated, to Madam Chloe's point, because it is also very hot out here. So especially after the dog and I go for a drag in the morning, because you'll learn this with the whole puppy thing, is that we don't go for walks. We go for drags, and sometimes it's her dragging me, and sometimes it's me dragging her, depending on what thing she's found to sniff versus when she gets really excited. And so the cranberry juice when you get home is very satisfying. It's got a little bit of pop to it. So there you go.
So are you in the tumbleweed or the mountain part of Utah?
I'm in the mountain part of Utah. Okay. I am not far from the tumbleweed part. And if the wind comes up enough, then the tumbleweed part will come and join us. That happens. We've got pictures of houses just the next town over that the last time a big windstorm came through just had piles of tumbleweeds all up against them. It was really rather wild looking. But yes, so I do get tumbleweeds up here, but I'm a little bit further north.
I watched a funny how to improve making old things new again, and revitalizing old properties, but still honoring them. There's a HBO Max has was it HBO Max? Well, one of the subscription services that we get for the kids that I actually found one where they were doing that, and they did one in Santa Clara, Utah, Santa something, Utah.
Santa Clara.
Yeah,
red rock and real tumbleweeds.
Yeah, so they had everything's adobe with the old the bricks, and he had this really funny joke about his mother always told him playing in the mud would get him in trouble because he'd always ruin his church clothes, and now he's the foremost expert on mud bricks making. And I just can appreciate that. Now every time I think Utah, I'm picturing this guy playing with the mud.
Okay.
So, all right, Hunter, you came back just in time to ask the last religion question. So, coffee or tea, and how do you take it in the heat of summer?
Circle water, my flavored water, all year
what's
long.
The flavor of choice?
My flavor of choice today is Honey Crisp Apple.
Ooh.
Which does taste like Honey Crisps, not like generic apple flavored candy.
Ooh,
See, it's got a flavor cartridge in here. So you just refill your water, and I can't say how good it is for you or not, but it gets me drinking a lot of water.
That's acceptable, I guess. I would have to worry about the calories, but you youngins. All right.
So it has calories.
I mean, the water.
That's why I guess it should look into what the sweetener is.
Yeah, it just depends on what they're flavored. So, Melissa,
yes.
What are you drinking in the heat of August? Wait, in August you'll actually be back in India, so it'll be what?
No, I am in India, yeah, and it is actually not as hot as it usually is in August. We're between monsoons at that point. But I drink year-round my sparkling ginger lemon water with real ginger juice, and it is delicious, and I drink lots of it.
Okay.
In between drinking Coke.
Is Jana ever going to convert you to the Church of the Doctors of Pepper?
No, it's too sweet for me.
No, it's okay. We've had this discussion and we've come to peace about it.
I used to drink Dr. Pepper. I did when I was younger, and then my taste changed, and I don't like things that are quite so sweet. So I went from milk chocolate to dark chocolate, went from Dr. Pepper to Coke.
Just saying, flavored water. It's like water.
Well, that is
soda or juice, but with only about this much of the flavor.
Well, the sparkling ginger lemon water that I drink is sucralose flavored or sweetened, and no aspartame, which I hate. Absolutely will not drink anything with aspartame because it tastes terrible, and what's the point if it tastes terrible? But no calories, so it's good.
One of these days, if I sell enough books, I'm going to buy myself an espresso maker so I can make lattes and iced lattes at home. But for now, because I'm not rolling in that kind of espresso money, it's iced coffee this August. Maybe if I sell a few dozen more books, who knows? I feel like we should be like Sarah McLachlan in The Arms of an Angel playing sad music in the background as I talk about not having espresso money, but whatever. All right, so before we roll into the commercial, we are going to talk about YA fiction today, obviously, if you read the title of this episode. But first, let's define our terms. What is YA fiction?
Okay, can I provide a little background? Because
Sure.
This is what I did for years and years. And I think I am probably the oldest on the podcast, so I also have this as living memory, which is kind of sad. Okay, so for a long time, there was no YA distinction in children's literature. It was all children's literature, and the children's literature section of a library or bookstore would have anything from, say, Betsy Tacy to Cynthia Voigt, or it would have Beverly Cleary. It would have all these different authors, and they would range in terms of from what we'd call chapter books all the way up to young adult fiction. But it was all one thing. It was all children's lit. And so it wasn't until the late 80s, early 90s that we started seeing the distinction and having people explicitly say this is young adult fiction. And the age divide came about where, and it's changed since then. It's still evolving, which is interesting to me too. But it came to be accepted that ages 14 through 18 were young adult. Ages 8 through 11 were juvenile, and anything younger than that was still children's lit. So I would say, and this is what I used to tell people back when I was actively a literary critic, is that young adult fiction, whether it's genre fiction or contemporary fiction or anything like that, is for young adults, as well as being about young adults. And if it was only for young adults, then adult readers could not enjoy it, because it would go over their heads, or it would be irrelevant. But if it's about the experience of being a young adult, then that's relevant to anyone who's a reader in that age category, as well as readers who've passed through it. So that's my definition of what young adult fiction is it's fiction that is about the experience of being a young adult. And that's very broad, but I think it covers a lot. So I think we could probably narrow that down, especially if we start talking about YA fantasy. But for me, that's always been the starting point. It's why To Kill a Mockingbird is not a young adult novel, because it is not about the concerns of Scout. It is about something bigger. So anyway, so there's my starting point. I would love to hear the rest of you elaborate on that.
I agree. And I'm going to throw out history for something I was not alive for. It turns out it's not just young adult that's new, but teenagers are new. Supposedly teenagers did not become their own separate thing until like 1940s or 1950s. Because before then it's like, well, you're a kid or you're going to go get a job and get married and go be a grown-up, for goodness sake. But people went through the stage kind of teenagers having more control. They got cars and they were able to go places and they had their own spending money. And we've realized that we like to have teenagers buy things. So we want to figure out what teenagers like and give them that.
Well, but it's not just that. It's that time where, because the laws changed as far as what teenagers could be doing, it put them into school, it reduced the number of hours that you could work. It really opened up a life for teenagers where there was leisure that wasn't, well, of course, you're immediately going into a factory, going onto a farm, that kind of thing. Only a few people went to school for things beyond the basics. And that was a huge change that made teenagers what they are. And then, like you say, that led to, well, we've got this audience now called teenagers. What do we feed them, because they become consuming? And as grown-ups who have teenagers, it becomes well, if I can't send them to work, and if I can't do this and the other, what the heck do I do with them? They need hobbies. And that has turned into some really crazy super moms who are like, and they will have sports teams, and they will have music, and they will have all these other things. So there are extremes in this thing. But yeah, and I think it's important to look at that and say, there's a lot of books that get classified as YA that, because of their subject matter, because of the way they're coming at it, even if they happen to have a character that is 16, it doesn't always mean that they're YA. Right. A Court of Crowns and Roses and ACOTAR, whatever the heck that stands for, because I can never remember. I'm looking at you because those aren't YA books, but yet they were very strongly in the beginning marketed as such. And then the publisher pulled back and went, actually, we're marketing this to the wrong demographic. Just because it has some younger characters in it doesn't mean that it's about the experiences of being that age, about those experiences. And then you add really explicit content to it. And it's not that teenagers don't understand explicit, but it's where does that fit and where is it appropriate within what it is that they're learning. So there's a lot of stuff that is cross-marketed. They're trying to catch mostly those adult readers who are reading YA. They're not actually trying to catch the teenagers. And so that's the other thing, is though it gets really fuzzy, because the biggest readers of YA tend to be grown-ups. They tend to be older women after Twilight and things like that. There's a lot of YA that pushed
30-something
older
women.
Readers, 30-something women. And that's what this new YA that isn't really YA, it's going after them. It's not going after my teenage daughter who has no interest.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would agree with that on the iffy crossover, because I market my books as romantic fantasy, not as YA, but I get a lot of crossover readership. because of that blurry space.
So
I'm looking for. Go ahead.
Go ahead. As I say, according to Wiki, a young adult literature, YA, is typically written for readers between age 12 and 18 and includes most of the themes found in adult fiction, such as family dysfunction, substance abuse, alcoholism, and sexuality. It is characterized by simpler world building than adult literature, as it seeks to highlight the experiences of adolescence in a variety of ways. There are various genres within young adult literature. And then it gives some historical context. The earliest known use of the term young adult occurred in 1942. Prior to the 1930s, teenagers, adolescents, and young adults were still considered children in society. Following the recognition of teenagers as a distinct group of people, the designation of young adult literature was developed by librarians to help teenagers make the transition between children's literature, and adult literature. Man, they're going to have a hard time trying to figure out where they put middle grade at this point then.
Yeah, they did. I would definitely argue with that.
That definition
and then according
is
to a study in 2023, 55% of young adult literature consumers were over 18 years of age. 78% of adult consumers purchased with the internet to read themselves. Of these adult buyers, 51% were between the ages of 30 and 44, highlighting the fact that consumption of adult literature is heavily focused outside of the young adult target range.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at that definition to me is playing to something, and I've met authors who firmly believe that this is accurate and correct and good, but it's looking at YA literature to instruct. These are the difficult and culturally complex pieces of coming of age, and we're going to tell you what they should look like and how to feel about them. And so it is almost prescriptive that a book that is intended to be consumed by YA readers should be telling them how to feel about all of these complex things.
I will also
obnoxious and in many ways unacceptable. I'm looking for YA to have a coming of age or transition from childhood to adulthood that's happening in the main character. And it doesn't have to be really profoundly front and center, but there's a sense of all of the stability of home is now a little bit wobbly and questionable, and I have to figure out who I am and what I want and how to make those decisions. And all of a sudden, the decisions that I make matter on a level that they didn't before. And how do I cope with that and the insecurities that come out of it? And there are a lot of really interesting perspective voices, point of view voices that are just looking at how does it feel to come into this level of maturity and self-responsibility for the first time. And that's, like you say, To Kill a Mockingbird isn't about those things. It's about a lot of other things. But while Scout does go through that coming of age moment in a really beautiful way, that's not what that story is about. And a YA story is focusing a lot more on this is how this person is developing from a childish level of maturity and responsibility into more adult decisions and awareness.
And that's going to vary by era. Because, I mean, like I was raised in an era where they had to play the commercial. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Because, you know, it was just free range, the Goonies, you know, whatever. So I do think what we expect from young people is reflected in the literature as time evolves as well. I mean, it used to be the old trope, we had to fridge the parents, so that way you could justify the adventure or find some way to get them off. I mean, it's there for a reason. It's you have to factor in those things. So
that one drives me bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, why does everyone got to lose? Like, you know, there aren't that many orphans.
Unless we got like a really, really good reason. I found a book the other day with a good reason, but I know I need to go to commercial.
Yeah, we're going to pause for a moment while we
shamelessly
again, and then we'll get back to the discussion now that we've agreed to disagree on terms.
From R. Max Tilsley, author of Brains, the post-apocalyptic pick-a-path adventure with more than 60 endings, comes the Susie Steele Adventures. Susie has a heart of gold, a set of bad dreams, and a hidden destiny. 6 months ago, Susie's father went to work and never returned, leaving Susie to her hobby of chasing away nannies. That is, until the mysterious and glamorous Cassandra roars into her life, driving a red sports car and promising to be the best of friends. When Susie stumbles on her father's secret lair, a world of magic, ghosts and mysteries beckons. Can she discover the truth, avoid being expelled from school, and keep a ruthless secret society off her back? She's to have a ghost of a chance. She'll need the help of her best friends, one grumpy cat, and a whole lot of daring. The Susie Steele Adventures from R. Max Tilsley. Book 1, The Steel Trap. Book 2, The Steel Bite. Perfect for readers 9+. Available in print and ebook.
Although I will say he publishes from Australia, so I think you got to turn the book upside down to read it properly.
That would explain a lot.
But it makes it make sense, I'm told. All right, so with that out of the way, thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude, and we'll dive into YA fiction. So it sounds like people don't even agree on the term what is young adult fiction. So I think there's a reason that there's such ambiguity in the genre as a defining characteristic.
Well, I think people have a vested interest in making it be a certain thing because it's what suits them. It's like Chloe's saying about the authors who want it to be instructional, who want it to be about, how to feel, how to think. You have the authors who want it to be fiction that is safe and sanitized for their consumption. They don't want a lot of sex. They don't want anything heavy. They want it to be something light. And then you get the ones who want it to be deep and serious as far as that goes. I mean, there's so many different ways to approach it. So I don't know. I never found it useful in my time as a critic to try and explain or to define down this is what young adult fiction is, which is why my definition is so broad, because it had to be something that everyone could agree with. And a lot of what I did at the time, and this was the 90s and the early 2000s, was to try and convince adult readers that young adult fiction was something worth reading as an adult. And that was a very hard sell at the time. So then we have J.K. Rowling come along with Harry Potter. We have Stephanie Meyers with Twilight. And all of a sudden, we have a bunch of readers who are going, oh, well, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe I don't have to be embarrassed about reading young adult fiction. And so there's that sort of break that happens right around the early 2000s. And now we have everybody says, yeah, it's fine. It's good. Nobody's ashamed to be reading it. But it still does mean that you get readers who are now saying, well, this is what young adult fantasy is because it's what I like. And what you're reading is not young adult fantasy because it's what I don't like. And I don't find that helpful.
True. I think things have to mean things or they don't. You can't have sort of nebulous where the words stop mattering. And if words don't matter, what are we doing here? I think I don't remember going. I seem to remember going from the kids' books like the Hardy's Boys straight to almost adult fiction. I think the only two books I ever read, which could even be considered YA, would be like Rifles for Wadey, which is for young boys, and then we'd almost call it men's adventure fiction if it was written now. And Red Badge of Courage, I think, because the character was young enough and it was coming of age, but it's just classic literature. So I don't know if those two even traditionally count. I
don't think Red Badge of Courage gets scooped in with young adult literature anymore, mainly because it gets taught as a classic I read it in high school as an English class. So, and it was, I think, people of my generation definitely experienced we're going straight from children's books to adult fiction because young adult fiction, children's lit, was still mostly invisible. I mean, it was, again, something you were embarrassed to admit to because you weren't a grown-up, because you weren't reading, and yet during the 80s and 90s, the best and most exciting writing in fantasy was happening in that space. You had Patricia McKillop being classed as young adult, which I would never do today. I don't know why they even thought that was a good idea. And you had Anne McCaffrey writing the Harper Hall trilogy. You had Diana Wynne Jones, who wrote everything. And those were, if you weren't if you weren't lucky, you just missed them.
Then you get to me here, who's 30 years old, and honestly, I've read I Like, I'm saying Melissa's right because I never went through the shame experience. Now I'm like, what am I in the mood for? And I just pick that up because I have this long list where even like with Twilight, would I be into it now? No. But did it get me reading and did I enjoy it as a teen? I did.
Yeah.
I did that same jump from children's books, but mine was The Horse and the Girl Who Loved It. And I read those in series that numbered into the hundreds, and I could tell you the plot structure for every last one of them. It was just a new character and a new name of the horse. And they did the same thing over and over again. I could tell you everything about it. I read them over and over and over again. And my teachers came to my parents and said, she has got to grow up and read something else. And so my dad handed me Tom Clancy. And that was my transition out of, because I didn't find anything else in the children's books that I really liked. I was reading 2 books a day in the school library in middle school, and Jim Kildare is still one of my favorite authors of all time. He wrote animal protagonists. And I just didn't like the human protagonists in most of the books that I was reading. I read a lot of Greek mythology. I read anything with an animal protagonist, and they're like, yeah, no, we got to move on to something that is actually going to move forward socially and maturity wise. And yeah, I went to Robert B. Parker and Tom Clancy directly from The Horse and the Girl Who Loved It.
I don't know. I mean, I'm same age as Hunter, just a few years older. I mean, growing up, I read anything I could comprehend. I read Lord of the Rings when I was in like middle school. I had a higher reading level than some people. So I mean, I finished the Lord of the Rings trilogy like right as the movies were coming out. I was reading Harry Potter when the movies, before and after the movies came out. Like I didn't really care what I read. I actually wasn't a huge reader after high school either. High school ruined reading for me. Books like 1984 were like whoosh, and
those are good books.
51, I was like, what the freak is this about? Like, I liked reading adventure books, and I think for me, a YA is anything that has to do with adventure. In fact, when I was first getting started, my sister, my sister informed me that I was writing YA, and I was just telling it as fiction because I was just like, it'd be for whoever. Like, I actually prefer YA books over some adult books because they have things I don't want to hear about it. It's like all of a sudden an adult, we can just write trashy works with swearing and nudity and just forget about storyline. We're going to be politically correct here and just write a bunch, in my opinion, trash. I don't like that crap in my stories. I see it in movies. I see it in music. I'm like, I want to have a good story that relies on a story. Some of that stuff might be necessary, but if you want to swear, make up your own dang swear words. I do all the time. All of my books have my own world of made up swear words. Like you can write. I feel like too many people focus on that kind of crap. Like, tell us a good story. Keep out all the other nonsense, or put it if it's necessary. If you're writing for your specific genre, it might be okay to put some of that stuff in there. But like, that's just how I feel about a lot of stuff. I prefer YA because I know it's safe, and even that's no longer safe anymore because they're trying to get all this stuff in it that I personally don't want to read because it's everywhere in the world around me, and they're just trying to get popular. I find that some of the most popular authors, like I'll read snippets from their books, and I'm just like, this is garbage. Like, why don't you write a good story and stop relying upon F-bombs and being modern and popular and cool? Like, if you write a good story, like J.R. Tolkien wrote a good story, J.K. Rowling wrote a good story, they didn't need any of that other popular stuff that nowadays is in all the other stories. So that's just my opinion on YA. I think YA is anything that you can read that you can relate to. It really shouldn't matter your age. So for me, it's just I would just find it as a book about an adventure, a book that people can relate to with a, just I don't know. I guess that's what I could describe it. I have no idea that's a value, but I thought I'd just throw that in there.
We have seen your soapbox and we acknowledge your soapbox. I will say, I think there's a difference between adventure books, men's and boys adventure, and YA, and I think there's overlap because you can have YA just like you can have any kind of romance, but I don't think to be YA it has to be an adventure story. because you could have plenty of coming of age stories. I probably wouldn't have read them, but they can exist that aren't adventure tales. But what you're describing is, and I've seen this with readers, one of the reasons they like YA is it's almost a substitute for clean, as in like no cussing, fade to black. And I don't know that they're necessarily the same, although I know because it's written for a younger audience, generally they can feel safe reading it. But I've seen the term YA used interchangeably with just clean fiction.
Oh, interesting.
Which is interesting. It's not always the case, because I do think part of the value of YA, as I'm watching my daughter read and that kind of thing, is it is a way to experience some of those spurs in a way that is, I'm going to use the word safe, but it's because there's a filter there. So like she likes to read, she loves reading the animal-based books. So all of the Aaron Hunter in every conceivable, dogs, cats, owls, horses, everything that has become part of that. The Wings of Fire books, all of those kinds of things. And there are experiences that happen there, like character death. You know, when she was much younger, to have a character get hurt at all was very traumatic. We actually had to stop reading Harry Potter with her because she got so upset that we were heading into a place where the kids were going to get hurt. And we're like, we can't read the end of book 4 because you will not handle this. You know, she was only 7 when we were reading these to her, but you're not going to be able to handle this. But as she's growing up and her reading's growing up, because readers tend to read up, they find in YA. So 12 and 13-year-olds are reading they're reading up about characters a little bit older. You tend to find that they read older and they're still able to mostly understand it. But you know, now she's got some books and she's like, oh, they just lost another cat. And I'm like, how many have died in just this book? I don't know, at least 5. And we've gone from I am sobbing over this thing to I have an acceptance of it. I understand this in a different way. And she still feels very deeply because she's that kind of kid, but she's able to experience those things. And then I found in real life when we lost our cat, it was a little bit more acceptable to her simply because through her reading, she had experienced some of these things, but through the characters at a distance. And I do think that reading in general helps you do this, but reading as a teenager and reading YA helps to introduce some of those first. What is first love like? What is first loss like? What is it like to have a stinky brother? To have some of those things that you may or may not experience in your own life. And that makes us into better people to have those vicarious experiences.
Oh, absolutely, that's awesome. Wow. I would actually, if I can say this, Jay, I would actually say that was one of the reasons why I loved Harry Potter, because there's definitely value in doing those things, and I don't shy away from that kind of stuff at all. I like that kind of stuff because you're absolutely right. We do need to experience things through the eyes of someone else because sometimes it does help us understand what's happening. And so I definitely think that there's some value. I guess for me, that's why I kind of like staying away from some of the more adult stuff, because you can focus on that kind of stuff, the real stuff, you know, going through trials, the overcoming, the, I don't know, feeling, you can like, I like to get in the head of a character. And if I can do that in multiple characters, that for me, I can relate to a book. Like Dune lost me. I was so bored. I was just like, I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Like they were way too like stiff. Peter Pan was like, nope, gone. That was so weird. But Tarzan, I freaking loved Tarzan. But I don't think that's considered YA, but I loved it because you got in the head of every single character. But that's hard to do. I think that just depends on maybe the authors. But like, that for me, like I like those kind of stories. Obviously it could have been the narrator too reading, you know, I listened to Dune and the narrator was awfully boring because I like the movies, you know. So I absolutely agree with you. In fact, I think there was like a study done that talked about the Harry Potter generation actually has these values that were instilled in them from reading Harry Potter about different things. So I absolutely agree. That's why it ticked me off when school started banning these books for witchcraft. I was like, bro, have you read the books? There ain't no witchcraft. Anyway, sorry, it's still a side tangent. Sorry.
So I've actually never read the Harry Potter books. They came out when I was busy doing other things in life, and I was not the target audience. And then Her and Stephen King kind of pissed me off when I was in Iraq, and I've just never forgiven them. I mentioned earlier Hadfield's McCoy's I Hold a Grudge. They did the famous study hard in school or you'll end up like those idiots in the army over in Iraq.
Oh my
Not
God.
that I hold the grudge. I'm just saying it's been 20 years and I still haven't let it go. But
not a grudge. It's all right.
Not a grudge at all. No.
No.
Do we maybe want to share
They're
some,
chunks.
before we run out of time, do we maybe want to share a YA book that we'd highly recommend to other people?
Sure, and you go first because you brought it up, so everyone else has time to
Oh,
think.
yeah, I have so many. I'm full of them. Okay.
Mhm.
I loved An Enchantment of Ravens. I don't normally go for, I felt like it was a really fresh YA book. It's about a human painter that travels to the realm of the Fae in order to save herself and the Fae man she's in love with, but it's not a Court of Thorns and Roses because she saves the day through making a magical painting. It was really fun, but it didn't have, like, I compare it to Court of Thorns and Roses, but at more of a proper teenage categorization. And, and a lot less of the weird worm trying to eat people. Yeah, there wasn't that. But it was
What is it with these two youngins that don't like worms? You know, you're both crapping all over it. First,
I actually really like.
Just read A Court of Thorns and Roses. You'll understand the worm thing. But I thought it was really fresh because her superpower is she's a painter.
Cool. So Chloe, I see you got your thinking face on. You've got
I
ideas.
do. No, it's the YA that I have read has been, broadly speaking, guilty pleasure, where you blitz through it and you get to the end and the story was very entertaining and addictively written, but the content is just kind of questionable. And we didn't get into the tropes that I hate list, but I have a long list of YA tropes that I passionately hate, among them the evil adults trope. And it's just really hard to avoid the evil adults trope and the chosen one whose magic and everybody is taken with them and can do no wrong, and the we're going to keep a secret to advance the plot trope.
Oh gosh.
So I have a hard time giving a firm, heartfelt recommendation. If I had someone who was looking for YA, I haven't read them, but I would point them at Tiffany Aching, who is the YA protagonist from
Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett. And if anybody's going to do that well, it's on my list. I haven't gotten to them yet.
Yeah,
but if
you will love
anybody's
them.
gonna do it well. Tiffany Aching would be the place I would start.
Yeah, and see, I'd go Robin McKinley. And some of it is, some of hers was out a long time ago. But The Hero and the Crown, The Blue Sword, I love her retelling of Beauty, because that's one where she's such a sensible beauty that there's a lot more going on there. She does a really good Robin Hood retelling. So she's got a lot in there that I think are very solid kind of YA. And they're ones that I find myself going back and rereading. I can't tell you how many times I've read The Blue Sword. It's a lot, and it's one of my favorites. And it's, the girl who was stolen away to the desert because she's got she's got something out there waiting for her, but she doesn't know what it is. And so we've got the fish out of water going on, but it's handled with such charm that it's a really, really beautiful read. And that is one that I'll go back because it's adventure and there's just a little bit of romance and there's a gigantic cat. And anytime you've got a gigantic cat familiar friend, she feeds it her breakfast and it becomes her friend forever. And that's how you make friends with a cat. So I do find Robin McKinley a good choice for some solid YA. All right, Melissa, hit us with your list.
Well, Forrest is going.
I was sorry, I forgot we're taking turns here. You go ahead. I don't have anything like top of my head. It's not yet. It's YA. I was just kind of looking through my bookshelves and stuff. So you can go for it.
Okay, so that's not an easy question for me because I have lots. Mostly, I go back to the classics from when I was young, and I mentioned Diana Wynne Jones before. She is a master. A lot of people rediscovered her when Harry Potter became a thing because she's also a British writer of fantasy. I recommend Archer's Goon, Dog's Body, Fire and Hemlock if you want to see what real world building looks like. And no, it is not simple Wikipedia. Young adult fantasy does not have simplistic world building. You guys are on crack. So, but for modern readers, one of my favorite.
I read Howl's Moving Castle.
That's Howl's Moving Castle. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's great.
Totally.
Yeah, she's amazing.
For more modern, and this one again subverts my least favorite young adult trope, which is the love triangle, which I think is stupid in any case. But Kate Elliott's book series, The Court of Fives, is a great adventure. It's got some wonderful characters. It's a little more solid. It has some issues that I think an adult reader would question about the resolution of the subplot. Well, the main plot is about the young woman becoming herself and effectively saving her world, not as a chosen one, but in essence, that's what she does. But the subplot is a political one. And I think that adult readers would probably quibble with some of what happens as a result of the political subplot. But Court of Fives is really exciting and a really good romance as well. So Kate Elliott, that's the one I would recommend.
Okay, so I think that leaves me. So I will say I liked Red Badge of Courage, but we've apparently said that doesn't count. But Rifles for
You
Waiting.
can still like it. It's okay.
Rifles for Waiting by Harold Keith, and it's an interesting story, sort of about a guy growing up at war, in a war. Obviously, it's set in Civil War, and it's got a little bit of coming of age, a little bit finding out who you are when the chips are down, because he ends up going on a spy mission and he meets the other side. He meets the Confederates, and he realizes they're people too. It kind of showcases the weirdness of that era, because it's like the main character is named for the Confederate president, but only because his dad served with him in the Mexican War. And it kind of shows that it wasn't as clear cut as modern history likes to make it. So I think it's good on many levels, but it's also just a fun story about it's got the funniest malicious compliance example I've ever seen, where they gave him, because they didn't like his name, so they give him like KP duty, kitchen duty. And so he knows that the sergeant he doesn't like always comes and tastes it before he feeds anybody. So he timed leaving with a pot of soup, the soup pot of dishwater out. So he takes a big gulp of the dishwater instead. It's just hilarious. When I was in high school reading that, and middle school reading that, because I've read it several times, I laughed hysterically. And then this one doesn't get enough love, but The Wave by Todd Strasser. And it started with the basic premises based on something that really happened in Palo Alto, California. But the basic premises of these kids are studying World War II, and they say, how could that have happened? That could never happen again. Talking about the craziness of the Reich and how all of that came to power. And so to prove that he could, he starts basically militarizing the teacher, militarizes the classroom. You know, now you stand at attention. When you answer, you sit up straight and all the things, and it becomes sort of a cult. And then, you know, you realize the ones that were nobodies before that everyone picked on are suddenly somebodies because they're enforcers. And it kind of spirals out of control to the point where, like, they're beating up the non-compliant ones. And so the teacher's told, hey, this is getting out of control. Fix this. So they have this whole meeting where they're going to go national and reveal their new leader. And they drop, of course, the picture of Hitler. And it's just such an interesting look at human psychology from the age of the people that were recruited first under the Reich, with like what do they call the Hitler's Youth and all of that. Like, it's a fascinating look at it and how that could happen again if you're not wary. So I think regardless of your political leanings, there's something in there for you about the social psychology and the dangers that can come from it. So I really liked that story. And I've talked to somebody, I read in, I think, 8th grade in my history class. But I don't think very many people have read it, because I talked to so many people who are like, yeah, I've never heard of this. So I will recommend that one for everyone.
Fascinating, yeah.
It was really good. And the scary thing was, it was really based on a true story. The guy got censured because, you know, you don't experiment on your students. That's generally considered a bad thing. And I don't think it was intended maliciously, but Are there any books that you read as a young person that spoke to you in the way a YA book does that isn't technically considered YA?
Sorry, what's your question?
I get it.
There are books that
in here.
So there are books that you could read that speak to you as a young person about a young person's coming of age, like we instanced To Kill a Mockingbird, but it's not a YA book.
I got one.
Go ahead.
And I didn't read this way back. It's only been out a few years. But The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sulin Tan is very good. It's an adult book that's won the Alex Award, which is an award given to a book that's released as an adult book, but has a lot of young adult appeal. It's about the moon goddess's daughter. The moon goddess has been exiled to the moon, and her daughter is going to go through the celestial kingdom going on quests. So that way she can get a pardon for her mom. And I thought that was really neat. First off, because the mom wasn't dead. But second off, like, I can see the way that'd be very relatable of a YA type story with a healthy relationship with your parents.
Okay. Anybody else?
I keep coming back to The Island of the Blue Dolphin, which is it may fall under the definition that we've been discussing, but it's a lot more about a survival sort of a story rather than a coming of age story. But the heroine is very much a child, and her tribe evacuates an island because of a natural disaster, and she gets missed. And she's there on her own, and it's got Robinson Crusoe vibes. It's got Swiss Family Robinson vibes, but she's trying to remember all the things that she's seen and all the things that she's been taught, and to take care of herself, where she hasn't really had to do that before, and recognizing the value of community and family and all of those things. Stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't do too much reading as a teenager. Like I said, high school really ruined it for me. All I read in high school, I read Harry Potter. I did read the Maximum Ride series. There's so many different variations of that. The one that I read, and it just brought my love back of reading again. The way James Patterson, puts in all the, he made so many things exciting in, 2 or 3 pages. And for me, it was just fun because you got to see, first of all, the protagonist, who's a young girl, a teenage girl with a bunch of her teenage, what's the word? Orphans, I guess, runaways, who have special powers and stuff like that. That book I really liked. But I also I mentioned it in the chat here at the bottom. Just books. One of the books, the YA books that I'd recommend is for the Windknots the Aeronauts Windlass, which is an awesome book by Jim Butcher, and then the Codex Alera. The Codex Alera series. It's 6 books by Jim Butcher. Loved it. I mean, like, the main character is 16 years old, going on, and by the time it's done, he's 21. So it's like right in that cool range. But it was written on a bet. Basically, Jim Butcher was with his writer buddies, and they were like, "There's nothing new, nothing original anymore." And Jim Butcher's like, "Okay, give me 2 topics totally unrelated." And they said Pokemon and the Lost Roman Legion, and he wrote 6 books about it, and they are phenomenal books. I listened to the audiobooks. My wife actually physically read the books. They are unbelievably good. So I would highly recommend, like I said, he's 16 to 21. There were some crazy plot twists. There were some, like, it was a great series. Highly recommend that. And then the Windknots Aeronauts is just a fun book about it's like a steampunk kind of a society that kind of works with crystals, and that's their powering system. And there was just some good twists there too. So I guess those would be my 2 that I would recommend. So yeah.
Okay.
What
about you, Jana? What was I thinking?
That's okay. I get Yana and Yana and Jena and Jana, and my own daughter can't spell my name, so that's okay. She always puts so many M's in it. Yes, I'm a shenanigator. I like it. So this is one that I've heard argued back and forth whether or not it's YA, and that's A Wrinkle in Time and the following books, because they do have the teenage protagonist, but a lot of what's going on is much bigger than her and is actually about the adults around her. But it is a fascinating series. The first time that I read it, I was not very old, and it really went right over my head. I totally missed it, I'll be perfectly honest. But I was about, I think, 8 when I picked it up the first time. And then reading it again as a grown-up, I'm like, there's some cool stuff here. And that kind of tickles that YA funny bone, even though I don't know that it is expressly YA.
It is.
Whether or not it fits in there.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Melissa went
Yeah.
All right.
on that side.
What about you, Melissa?
Okay, so my book that I consider a great coming-of-age novel that is decidedly not young adult is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. And it is a murder mystery. It is set in the 14th century in a monastery. And the overt plot is about basically a heresy trial. But the young boy and his mentor go to this monastery where the trial is going to be held, and the mentor is one of the investigators. And murders start happening, and they look like they have a theme to them. And so the young boy is caught up in this, and he's the point of view character. He's like 14, I think, and he changes a lot, and he grows, and he learns a lot of stuff that he wishes he hadn't. But at the end, he is an adult. He has come of age. So, and I read that. The first time I read it, I bounced off it. I picked it up, and I just was not interested. And then the second time I picked it up, I thought, why did I ever think this was a bad idea? I have no idea. It's really dense prose. Umberto Eco is a thinker. He's a philosopher. And this is probably the most accessible of his books, I would say. But yeah, that's the one for me.
Okay, so I'm going to list 3 that I really liked as a young person. I think they're considered classical literature and not YA, but definitely fit. Cross 5 Aprils, about the Civil War by Irene Hunt. April Morning, which is the iconic story about the kid that joins at Lexington Concord. So April Morning was by Howard Fast. And then, of course, the classic The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought those were excellent. And then those might be considered, so one that's definitely not, because it predates the term, was The Young Carthaginian by G.A. Hinty, which was written in 1887, but I read that as a kid. My grandpa Handley, gave that to me. And it's about a young kid who rides elephants with Hannibal as he crosses the Alps. Hannibal Barker, not Hannibal the serial killer. The OG Hannibal, I'm just saying. And I think those were all excellent books. But I like going back to the classics. I think there are some that definitely can ruin literature for us, but there are some really good ones. Unfortunately, sometimes the teachers aren't really good at picking the right book for the right readers. So I'll say that to say, this is the part of the interview, dear listener, dear reader, dear viewer at home, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on those reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. So do your part. It really does matter, because sometimes it really is just a matter of matching the right book to the right person. And you can change lives, I'm telling you. So with that, we're going to start with you, Chloe. Where might listeners and readers find you in the wild interwebs? And if you could predict the future, what might you be writing way forward in August?
In the way forward. Readers can find me on my website, chloegarner.com, if they're looking for essay length updates on what I'm up to and what I find interesting. Following me on Amazon is the easiest, fastest way to find out that I have a new book out, or you can take my newsletter and I'll send you updates on sales and the like. Or if you really want to hang out with me as an actual human being, find me on my Facebook group. It is the coolest group of people anywhere.
And there are lots of tea references in her Facebook group. So if you're a proud American who thinks we should throw it all in the harbor, I'm just warning you, you might be among a hostile crowd. So... although I have heard rumors that you're not real, you were actually just assembled by the spare body parts of dead English teachers. Any truth to that rumor?
She couldn't tell you even if there was.
I am a dragon in disguise.
That I could believe. So what is your hoard? Is it gold or books? Or golden books?
If I told you that, you'd have to come steal it because you couldn't resist.
Okay. All right, Forrest. What are you working on now? Oh, that's it, Chloe. You didn't tell us what you're working on.
I'm writing paranormal detective stories again. It's a hoot. I'm having so much fun.
Is it a hoot because they're ghosts?
No, there are no ghosts. Just lots of fae.
I'm just saying, I do know who to call if you have ghosts.
No response.
Yeah, Forrest, what are you working on now? And how can we find you?
So I'm pretty active on my Facebook page. I also do, because I couldn't figure out the newsletter stuff, I do a blog, though, that is actually off of my website, forrestjonesfantasy.com. And so if you wanted to follow me, the Facebook page would be the best place to do that. And then you could just read the blog. I've been really bad at updating it, but for the most part, I do try to do something at least once a month. I'd like to do it once a week. I'm not super active on Instagram. I just can't figure that out. It's just Facebook's the easiest for me because that's where I have all of my contacts. It's just the easiest one for me. What I'm working on now, that's tough to say because, like I said, I just finished, multiple books. Well, I'm actually probably going to be publishing this here, one book here around Halloween. Hopefully, it's a supernatural, very much so more adult book about the feud between werewolves and vampires and why it started. Because I love I love werewolves and vampires. Always have. So I just finished that one, and I've had a few people read it, so I'm just putting their comments in, and that's probably the most recent thing that I've been working on.
Okay, Hunter, what are you working on, and where might we stalk you on the interwebs?
You can stalk me on the interwebs at hunterkwallace.com or on Facebook. And I love Madame Chloe's idea. Go find me on Amazon and click the follow box, because every time a new book comes out, you'll get no spam, just a nice little one email saying you can get it now. Hopefully a month from now, I will be halfway through writing my 4th book in my Migratory Farmer series about a woman with a curse where anyone she touches, she kills. So she has become a weird Wild West style bounty hunter. And her crew has a person with dissociative identity disorder with the many wonderful personalities that come with that, and a shape-shifting opossum. So it's a hoot.
Now, if you had said shape-shifting owl, you could literally say it was a hoot.
I couldn't read another. Won't make
All right, so first I'm going to remind you, yes, following your authors you like on Amazon is great. It tells them to send you emails, and it helps tweak the algorithms. But there is a delay, and there is no rhyme or reason to who gets notified what and when. So if you really want to follow them, go to their newsletters. I'm just putting that out there because they control that. There is no, ghost of the machine of the algorithm that does that. And with that, Jana, what are you going to be writing, and where might we stalk you on the Wild Wild interwebs?
I can be found over at opalkingdompress.com. Me and my many other me's hang out over there. I'm on Amazon. I'm on Facebook. And those are probably the places you're going to get the most action. I'm on Discord, but on such a plethora of servers, and I haven't decided to do my own yet. Maybe someday. So I'm out there. It's hard not to find me if you're looking. Jana S Brown or Jena Rey, they're almost always me. And what will I be working on? So this is August. I will be assembling the next anthology this year for Opal Kingdom Press. So we put out one about phoenixes in June. And at the end of August or beginning of September, I haven't nailed down my date yet, I will be releasing Fangs and Tail Feathers, which is our Griffin anthology.
Wow.
All right. And what about you, Melissa? What will you be writing in the forward future month of August?
Well, I will be working on my contemporary fantasy series about the land of fairy as a parasite realm that attaches to ours and has been poisoned for 1,000 years, and now the elves are really pissed about it. So they are invading our world, and this is a follow-on series to my last Oracle series, so it's got the same characters, and the main character is a mom of 3 who gets into adventures anyway. You can find me at my website, melissamcshanewrites.com. There's also my storefront, which is nightharborpress.com. You can find my books available for purchase as ebook or print. And a reminder that if you buy direct from the author, you are not dealing with a license as you are with Kindle. So if that matters to you, it's something you should keep in mind. I'm also on Facebook. I have a Facebook readers group. And I am on Goodreads reviewing the things that are fun for me. It's not really an author presence so much as I have a bunch of friends and we're all on Goodreads and we all read each other's reviews. But you can see what I'm up to.
So, Melissa, you've heard of the Old Man's War, yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You need to write the female version of that, like the Angry Tired Mom's War. There you go.
Okay. That would be good. I think there's a lot of room in there for the rejuvenated youth, the old woman in the young woman's body. Well, that's in Dungeon Crawler Carl. So
yes,
go read Dungeon Crawler Carl
by Melissa McShane of Warhamster fame.
That's right. So I will have to add it to the list.
Because, you've got so much downtime. You could just crank out another 10, 20, whatever.
Just in my spare time. It's no big deal.
Sleep, you need sleep. I hear you don't have to sleep in India because the elephants do something magic and you can just never sleep.
Well,
True?
Our house backs onto open ground, like a large portion of open ground. You've seen Indian cities. Well, that is not all of India, and southern India has a lot of empty space. And so the birds wake me every morning around 5. They start talking, and then occasionally we'll hear the water buffalo from outside our window who are tethered there to feed, and they will make noises, and they all have little white bird friends that follow them around. And we're not sure why. I thought it was because they were picking the parasites off, but we never see them do that. So that was my guess, but I'm wondering if I'm wrong. I don't know.
Maybe they're gun shy. Maybe.
I think they just enjoy the company of the water buffalo. I think they're just best
friends.
buds. Yeah.
Could be. And I get up about that time now. I didn't used to because you don't sleep in when you have a puppy that's got to go potty. Not unless you want to clean messes. So, back to waking up at weird hours. You can find us, dear listener, dear viewer at home, on Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTube, TikTok, the Twitters, the Spotify, the Discord, the Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, Blasters and Blades Podcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast. And I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till it sweats out of their pores. And then they go slipping, sliding down the mountain. Because we've done enough swimming in the river. So we got to mix it up a little bit. That's not as good a visual, though, so maybe I got to take that one back to the woodshed and think that over again. But if you want some of that coffee brand coffee, you can go to the link in the show notes. Use the code PODCASTGRUNTS. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win, people. And with that, I will say thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, thank you all for coming on. We had opinions. Remember, if you have hate mail, forrestjones@gmail.com. I don't know if that's actually his email, but I'm just saying he's the one that didn't like Dune, not us. Just gonna put that out there. I still get the flat earthers and the people that don't like my Starship Trooper opinion. I don't need more. And with that, we're gonna hit the end button. Don't cuss yet, people. I'm looking at you, Jana. Wait.